Previously on the Top Dungeon Farmer, our hero crushed the abyssal beast, unlocked relics, survived the system's lethal gambit, and faced a legion of darkness rising from the deepest dungeon. And now, the story continues. Sujuin slams the pepper grinder, his eyes blazing for a taste of victory. He aims to earn the title of sales cat for a full day, but the pepper's fiery scent overwhelms his senses, clouding his judgment. He inhales deeply, the pungency flooding his lungs, and a sudden cough erupts, shaking his stance. The cat watches, amused, as Sujuin's cheeks flare red, and a droplet of sweat slides down his brow. The heat forces him to retreat, his claim to the 2-hour stint slipping through his fingers.
What do you think, Naya? I'm deserving to be the sales cat?
The lingering heat promises a hotter challenge ahead. The answer is already too late.
Dawn breaks over the terraced fields as Mira inspects the newly sprouted moonvine tendrils, noting their luminescent hue. She commands Garrick to forge a lightweight irrigation system using basalt cores, while Rio releases a hatchling drake to pollinate the blossoms. Sijuan watches the harvest barrels fill, then trades surplus seeds with Talia for enchanted fertilizer. The Crimson Guild scouts approach the perimeter, but the farm's defenses pulse with freshly brewed alchemy, ready to repel any intrusion.
Sujuin watches the glowing tomatoes burst into mana-fueled shards, the surge tearing the field as a massive, unseen vortex erupts from the soil, swallowing the harvest and everything nearby. He feels his lifelong dream of mastering farm magic shatter, his hope draining like spilled juice while the promise of the mysterious churn pack fades into a bitter, empty ache. A shadowy figure materializes within the vortex, holding a sealed, pulsing relic that beckons Sujuin, leaving the fate of his farm and the world hanging on a single, trembling choice. 100% pure story, 0% filler. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. A crimson giant bear hatchling roars, already devouring the kingdom's last harvest. The cavern trembles as the massive creature's tiny claws tear at the packed soil. Lee Junho watches from the edge, his mind racing. The rare monster meat could feed his top-tier farm for weeks. He steps forward, hand gripping the ancient sickle he fashioned from dungeon soil steel. The hatchling snarls, eyes blazing, but Junho swings, cutting a deep slash that splits the creature's jaw open. Blood sprays, the scent of iron fills the air, and the beast collapses, leaving a mound of raw, shimmering flesh. And that's not even the worst part.
You hear the tower manager shout, his fury cutting through the cavern like a blade. He orders the baby crimson bear out, promising a skill reward for anyone who complies and a death by starvation threat for those who refuse. Junho feels his heart tighten. He cannot betray the creature that just trusted him. The manager's eyes flash with cold calculation, insisting monsters could jeopardize his tower's safety. Mira steps forward, shielding the bear with her blade, while Kellen readies a calming potion. The manager's command hangs heavy, and the farm's future hinges on this standoff. The manager's rage fuels a storm that could shatter everything. The tower manager repeats his order, his voice trembling with forced authority. The bear's growls turn into a wet, gurgling chatter as it swallows a massive leaf, now the size of a rabbit from yesterday. The tower manager's voice trembles, warning that the tower's special soil accelerates growth. Nothing strange about a monster getting huge fast. He blames his own silence, recalling he should have heeded the manager's earlier orders. The manager's reprimand hangs heavy, but the bear keeps feasting, its belly swelling with each bite. The farm's supplies dwindle, and the manager's guilt fuels a dangerous resolve to contain the creature. The tower manager declares the bear cubs the ultimate gluttons, capable of devouring a day's worth of provisions in minutes if left unchecked. The tower manager tightens the ropes, the cage jolts forward, and the baby crimson bear bursts out, sprinting into the darkness beyond the farm's walls. Junho clutches the bear, Mira flashes her blade, and the crew watches their dwindling food stores vanish as the gluttonous cub devours a day's provisions in minutes, threatening starvation and panic. The bear vanishes into the unknown. The etched symbols on the stone glow ominously, and the tower's accelerating soil promises a perilous power surge that nobody yet understands. The villain might actually be right. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and decide for yourself. A crimson bear roars, demanding honey for its cub as the tower around it bleeds stone and fire. Sejuan stands frozen, his hands still covered in soil, because the beast's growl shakes the very roots of his farm. The bear blocks any chance to leave, teeth bared, eyes locked on the honey jars stacked nearby. Sejuan grabs the nearest jar, slams it against the stone floor, spraying syrup across the trembling ground. The sticky flood distracts the bear just enough for the tower manager to shout orders, but the scent of honey lingers, promising a brutal showdown.
Yield honey, or lose everything.
The crimson giant bear lumbers into view, its massive form blocking the path to the waypoint's beacon. Sejuan pleads, asking the beast to guide him, but the bear snarls, pointing to a forest teeming with 3,000 monsters guarding the route. The creature's territory stretches from the inner woods to the surrounding plains, meaning any shortcut forces Sejuan into a gauntlet of snarling foes. He grips his farming tools, now repurposed as makeshift weapons, and decides to cut through the monster swarm, trusting his knowledge of their habits. Each slash clears a path, but the relentless tide of claws and fangs drains his energy, leaving his crop's future hanging by a thread. Mira slurps the stew, her cheeks flushing with satisfaction, and declares the dish nutritious despite missing a few ingredients. She urges Sejuan to feed the mother bear well so the cub grows strong. Sejuan nods, but a sudden, indecipherable chant rises from the shadows, freezing his hand over the ladle. The strange sound disrupts their focus, hinting at unseen magic probing their camp. Sejuan swallows his doubt, forces a grin, and offers another bite, hoping the distraction passes.
Sejuan darts between rows of glowing nightshade, his boots crushing the soft bioluminescent moss as a distant roar rattles the cavern walls.
Sejuan slams the sealed notice into his pack, the warning about landlord Grid's blood-sucking thugs igniting a fierce resolve to protect the wandering merchants and their fragile trade routes. Myra's hungry infant finally drinks the steaming stew, its warm glow filling her heart with hope while Sejuan feels the crushing weight of responsibility to feed growing cubs and outwit ruthless overseers. A frantic messenger bursts in, shouting that the elusive cat merchant Theo slips onto the 7th floor, leaving Sejuan's plans teetering on the edge of a deadly ambush that could shatter everything.
Miss one chapter and you'll be completely lost. Hit subscribe on Manwa with Hari and stay in the loop. A demon-born hero must farm a cursed dungeon while heaven hunts him. Sejuan, the sole underdog turned tomato grower, eyes the next tier of monster plots. He wants a bountiful harvest to pay off his debts. The cursed soil spits poison, and a celestial patrol circles, ready to strike any stray crop. He plants seed pods infused with alchemical slime, then slams the ground with a hammer, forcing the poison to recede. The soil steadies, his first batch of glowing carrot sprouts, but a distant horn echoes, announcing the heavens' approach. Junwoo watches the market board, desperate to sell his newly grown loot-crazed tomatoes before the celestial tax collectors arrive. He wants cash to buy better defenses.
Sejun slams a sack of glittering tomato seeds onto the stone floor, the scent of fresh soil mingling with monster musk. Junwoo watches, counting how each sprout doubles the loot from the next wave of quests. Mira snaps a vial of growth elixir, while Gorak hammers a reinforced fence around the budding rows. The dungeon roars, but their farm dungeon thrives, cash crops blooming amid chaos.
The barrier holds, and the next challenge waits just beyond his reach.
Sejun hammers soil into raised beds while his loyal wolves chase lingering wraiths, the glow of bioluminescent mushrooms lighting the rows. Mira mixes a crimson elixir, spraying it on seedlings that sprout instant silver leaves, boosting monster drop rate.
Unho forces the massive rune-sealed stone door open, unleashing a swirling vortex of spore-filled darkness that threatens to choke the newly planted tomato farms. Sejun watches his precious harvest pulse with life, feeling hope surge as each sprout promises wealth. Yet the encroaching spores gnaw at his ambition, risking the loss of everything he's cultivated. Junwoo scrambles to halt the spreading blight while Astra's smugglers set a hidden trap, leaving the farm's fate hanging on a fragile barrier that trembles under unseen pressure.
What happens in the next chapter will completely flip everything you just saw. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari to find out. Junwoo slams the crystal core into the cavern floor, sparks erupting as Myra's arrows pierce the surge of dark energy. Hyunsoo rushes forward, shouting orders while Terra hammers a rune-etched blade into the stone, sealing the breach. Outside, Lord Varkas snarls, his legion swelling, but the top dungeon farmer grins, his harvest's about to explode.
Sejun slams a fresh batch of glowing tomatoes onto the market stall, his loyal Fey raccoon squad chittering as they fend off a swarm of crystal beetles. Across the cavern, Lee Junwoo coordinates with Myra's arrow rain and Kong Hyunsoo's battle plans, while Terra hammers a rune-etched plow for the next harvest. The dungeon trembles, but their crops, and their resolve, stand taller than any monster.
Lee Junwoo slams his sword into the cavern wall, triggering a cascade of glowing spores that sprout into towering tomato vines. Mira knocks an arrow, sending a flaming seed straight into Lord Varkas's advancing horde, while Kong Hyunsoo coordinates Terra's hammer-forged barricades. The dungeon erupts in emerald fire, and the top-tier dungeon blooms brighter than ever.
Sejun slams the soil into a perfect row, his trusty foxes darting between monster-spotted vines as the top-tier dungeon hums with alchemical energy. Across the cavern, Lee Junwoo coordinates Myra's arrow barrage while Kong Hyunsoo sketches expansion plans, Terra's forge clangs, and the scent of ripe tomatoes mixes with the iron tang of impending battle.
Junwoo slams his sword into the crystal wall, unleashing glowing spores that sprout massive tomato vines while a shadow swordsman materializes, blade humming, ready to seize the core. Junwoo fights to harness the core's power to double his harvest, risking his bonds as the looming Crimson Legion threatens to crush his farm dreams and betray his comrades. The mist thickens, the shadow swordsman lunges, and the crystal core pulses ominously, leaving Junwoo's fate and the destiny of the tomato vines hanging on a trembling blade.
This is peak fiction. Hit subscribe on Manwa with Hari so you don't miss the peak. The dungeon caves in, sealing the king's horde, as Sejun's seedlings scorch to charcoal. A sudden crack erupts, dust choking the air. Sejun scrambles, clutching his watering can, desperate to protect the only harvest he's ever known. The ground trembles, threatening to swallow the tiny greenhouse he built inside the cavern. He steadies his feet, slams the can shut, and shouts a warning that echoes off the stone. The warning draws the attention of the buzzing hive nearby, their wings a frantic blur. The hive's guard bee darts forward, its stinger poised to strike anyone who dares linger. Sejun realizes the honeycomb guards his only chance to survive.
Hayak.
Lob.
Sujuin confronts a mysterious figure standing before the cave entrance, a cloaked stranger whose eyes glitter with malice. He wants to protect his queen and his farm, but the stranger blocks the path, demanding the queen's venom as payment for safe passage. Sujuin grips his spear tighter, his fingers slick with poison, and demands the stranger step aside. The stranger laughs, brandishing a blade forged from dark crystal, and lunges. Sujuin dodges, feels the blade slice the air where his hand once was, and realizes the stranger is a former dungeon owner seeking revenge. He barely lands a counterstrike, shattering the stranger's shield, but a jagged scar appears across his forearm, marking his resolve.
Sujuin tallies the last batch of harvested crystals, then slams the ledger shut, determined to cash in before the market closes. He needs the gold to buy more fertilizer for his tomato rows, but the ticking clock of the dungeon's trade window threatens to cut his profits short. He rushes to the market stall, slams the crate down, and shouts for the merchant to process the sale. The merchant nods, eyes widening at the pile, and promises a payout within the next 40-odd hours. The rush leaves Sujuin breathless, but his coffers finally swell.
Quang lunges at Sujuin's alchemical churn, igniting a chaotic clash that threatens to shatter the crystal sprout batch and jeopardize the entire farm operation. Sujuin feels his livelihood crumble, his trust in Quang fracturing, while the looming market deadline steals hope from his dream of thriving tomato rows. A shadowed stranger chants Oyo beyond the broken fence, blade glinting, as the massive poison bee hovers, ready to plunge its stinger into the heart of the conflict.
The comments section doesn't lie. This community is insane. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and see for yourself.
The argument shatters the kingdom's only dragon, and no one even flinches. In the ruined cavern, Quang clutches his throat, his voice cracking as he repeats his name like a prayer. He wants the fight to end before the whole dungeon collapses, but the echoing anger of his companion fuels the tension. He lunges forward, shouting apologies that barely rise above the trembling walls. The stone cracks, a cascade of dust spills over their heads, and the unseen threat they feared inches closer. Their panic draws the attention of a lurking monster, its eyes glinting with hungry curiosity. And that's not even the worst part.
Silence now, or we all die.
A frantic trader shouts, "Go now!" as the tower's alarm bells clang. He wants the loot out before the royal expedition arrives, but the massive iron doors slam shut, sealing the exit. He grabs a spare key, twists it with desperate speed, and forces the doors ajar just as the first soldiers breach the outer wall. The rush of fresh air hits the chamber, and the loot spills onto the stone floor, glittering under torchlight. The traders scramble, filling their packs, while the soldiers stare, confused by the sudden bounty. The soldiers' confusion buys the traders precious seconds, but what will they do next? Kaiser Furtani snarls, "Damn it!" as a massive stone collapses, burying his lieutenant. Lee Sung-jin clutches the throbbing dragon heart, its pulse finally syncing with his own. "It never beat," he mutters, eyes widening as the relic spikes with rogue mana, absorbing the ambient energy of the abandoned tier. He slams the stone floor, shouting to Mira, "Now, let's turn this wasteland into the richest stronghold before Kellen even notices." Lee Sung-jin snatches the glimmering black elixir, its crimson mist swirling like a dragon's pulse. He crushes it between his thumb and forefinger, feeling the surge revive the wounded great black dragon Aileen. Her heart thunders back to life. A grin spreads across his scarred face. For the first time since his betrayal, he truly protects something beyond profit.
Lee Sung-jin crushes the glimmering black elixir, its crimson mist surging, and the dormant dragon heart erupts, reviving great black dragon Aileen in a blaze of rogue mana. Father like Lee feels his heart crush under the weight of love, clinging to the vial as his blood shields Aileen, risking his own life to stave off the lethal seizure. The mana conduit flickers, leaving the dragon heart's pulse wavering, while unseen forces gather beyond the cliff's edge, promising a catastrophic surge that could shatter everything.
Just one more chapter, right? We've all been there. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
Sijuan slashes through a horde of goblins, then drops his blade to plant a row of glittering tomato vines that pulse with mana. As the crops blossom, Mira darts in, chanting a healing hymn that fuels the soil, while Jinwoo's Iron Legion hoists the harvested bundles onto carts. The bounty erupts into glowing gold, dazzling Lord Kaldor's scouts and forcing the Abyssal Queen's minions to retreat.
Sijuan slams his hoe against a crystal-veined floor, coaxing glowing tomatoes to sprout while a horde of slime-scaled drakes lunges for his crops. Mira darts forward, chanting a healing hymn that turns the drake's blood into fertilizer, and Jinwoo's ironclad squad forms a protective ring.
Sijuan thrust his shovel into the glowing soil, the blue moon light pulsing through the seedlings as he swore to deliver the harvest to Aileen Fertani. Across the cavern, Lee Sung-hoon surveyed his expanding farm, Mira sketching distribution routes while Jinwoo rallied the Iron Legion to guard the new fields. Suddenly, Lord Kaldor's banners unfurled, and the Abyssal Queen Lyra's roar echoed, promising a showdown over the coveted crops. If you want more daily recaps, hit that subscribe button now. Sijuan fingers the ancient straw hat, its legend whispering of Saint Patrick of Earth, the farmer who fed starving villages. He learns the relic belongs to the Black Tower's 10 artifacts, each bound to a specific vocation.
Sijuan slams the soil, coaxing golden tomatoes from a cavern wall as a snarling goblin horde charges. Lee Sung-hoon, boots mud-caked, swings his scythe, slicing through the swarm while Mira chants a rapid heal, and the loyal furries dart between crops, guarding the harvest. The monster rush collapses under a cascade of ripe fruit, and the dungeon's treasure chest rattles open, spilling glittering rewards. Sijuan slams his hoe into the loamy floor, coaxing golden tomatoes to sprout as a horde of goblins lunges from the shadows. Mira darts forward, her healing aura pulsing, while Jinwoo's Iron Legion shatters the monster's ranks.
Sijuan's stomach growls louder than the distant roars, pushing him to declare, "Everything that we can eat." He spots a massive silhouette on the 99th floor, a towering Oxtaman King, the floor's boss monster, its eyes blazing with hunger. The crew readies spears, hoping to slay the beast and claim its corpse as a feast. The Oxtaman roars, shaking the tower's foundations, and lunges, scattering the hopeful hunters. Their blades clang against scales, but the monster's fury leaves several wounded, draining the already scarce medical supplies. The failed hunt deepens the tower's famine, and the Oxtaman's roar echoes like a death knell.
Everything that we can eat. Oxtaman King, 99th floor boss monster.
The creature's victory threatens to starve the tower forever. Sijuan stakes his claim on the tower's 99th floor, unleashing a vine-entwined tomato barrage that erupts into crimson fire, forcing the colossal Oxtaman King to stagger back. He watches his newborn rabbit brood tremble as hunger gnaws his crew, fearing the loss of both his harvest and his fragile family if the monster devours the tower's dwindling supplies. The blue moon looms, the Oxtaman King roars, and Sijuan's desperate command hangs in the air, leaving the tower's defenders teetering on the brink of starvation and annihilation.
We set the standard for Manhwa recaps on YouTube. Subscribe to Manhwa with Hari and experience the difference.
Hojin slams his spade into the glowing soil, and the magical cherry tomato vines erupt, each fruit pulsing with a golden aura. Mira knocks an arrow, scattering hostile spores while Garen hammers a rune-etched fence around the field. Rex commands a squad of feral wyverns to patrol the perimeter, and within minutes the harvest spikes by 50%, drawing the envious eyes of Lord Kaldor. Hojin slams his hoe into the glowing soil as the 7th blue moon looms overhead, the cavern walls trembling with a pulse of violet energy.
Hojin thrusts his spade into the glowing earth as a snarling abyssal wraith bursts from the tunnel, while Mira looses a rain of arrows that shatter its dark carapace. Rex commands a hulking direwolf to snarl, and Garen hammers a rune-etched blade into the monster's heart. The cherry tomatoes burst, releasing a blinding scent that sears the creature, securing yet another lucrative harvest.
It's gone! What was that sound? Cows on the 9th floor? Is the blue moon's energy more intense today? Here! Nice! Very nice!
Theo watches the glowing field, convinced the good harvest skill powers the crops. He points to the blue moon-kissed tomatoes, humming that the lunar energy makes every stalk swell. Exhausted, Sujuin collapses onto a bench, muttering "Sleep more, Naya," as fatigue drags at his eyes. Suddenly, a glowing stalk of corn sprouts, pulsing with blue moon energy, signaling a stamina boost. The system flashes, announcing a rise in harvest proficiency and a tidy EXP gain. Sujuin's mind races. This unexpected bounty could power his next raid. Yet the sudden surge also draws unseen attention. He feels a spark of hope, tempered by the dread of being watched. The next harvest might feed more than just his guild. Sujuin stares at the glowing corn, disbelief flashing across his face. Sujuin snatches the pulsating blue moon crystal as a dragon's wing thunders overhead, forcing the heart's raw power to surge through the tower's core. He feels his stamina ignite, but the manager's gratitude masks a looming debt, and the blue moon cherries he savors hint at fleeting strength that could vanish. Ho-Jin and Mira race to the tower, confronting a flickering hash on the ancient console, while the 7th blue moon seal trembles, threatening an imminent collapse. This is peak fiction. Hit subscribe on Manwa with Hari so you don't miss the peak. The cursed harvest bursts, unleashing a horde while the king's bloodline withers today. Sujuin stares at the newly arrived pot, the one the cat delivered yesterday. He knows the pot holds a rare seed that could finally boost his farm's output. The pot sits on a cracked stone shelf, trembling as the dungeon's tremors shake the walls. He lunges, grabs the pot, and slams it onto the workbench, hoping the vibrations won't ruin the seed. The pot cracks, spilling glowing soil that seeps into his crops, but a faint howl echoes from deeper tunnels. And that's not even the worst part. You feel the pressure of the baby's tiny paws pattering on the cold floor. Sujuin hefts the glittering corn stalks, slams them into the furnace, and watches the amber glow pulse through the dungeon's stone walls. The harvested corn erupts with stamina, shredding fat and sharpening muscles for anyone daring enough to bite. Across the cavern, Junwoo's top farm sprouts a row of golden tassels, while Mira scribbles the formula for the next batch: power in every bite, profit in every harvest.
I'll bring some roasted fish for Klang's mom later.
The rabbit delegation shuffles toward the dim tunnel, muttering about a restless night and aching knees. Their leader, a grizzled old bunny, insists on a few more hours of sleep before any trade. The Ox King, fearing the blue moon's draining spell, commands his herd to scatter and graze every patch of grass before the moon rises. He hopes the extra feed will offset the looming weakness. Yet the Minotaur race already devours more than any herd could manage, their massive jaws never satisfied. The Ox King's plan collides with an insatiable monster's appetite, leaving the field empty before night falls. Sujuin watches the empty pasture, realizing his allies are outmatched. Days pass and the once lush meadow turns to cracked, barren earth. Not a single blade survives the endless grazing. Confusion spreads among the Ox troops when a shouted order mentions Ox 3, a unit that never existed. Sujuin shatters the Black Minotaur's crystal core, unleashing a blinding surge that tears the waypoint's barrier and floods the meadow with raw, searing energy. He watches his lifelong tomato field ignite, feeling hope crumble as the farm's future teeters between barren ruin and a desperate, impossible rebirth. The shattered barrier awakens an ancient, unseen horror lurking beneath the grass, its guttural roar echoing, promising a relentless onslaught that threatens to consume every remaining hope. True fans know the lore is the best part. Hit subscribe on Manwa with Hari. My dragon heart freezes. Cursed tomatoes steal its fire, and the kingdom starves. Sujuin clutches his chest, feeling the chill spreading from the core of his being. He knows the cherry blossom tomatoes from Blue Moon promise power, yet the frost spreads faster than his hope. The crystal ball his grandfather once guarded lies out of reach, its glow dimmed behind a door that shrinks with every breath. He lunges for the handle, but the frame contracts, pinching his wrist and cutting off his escape. Panic spikes, but his mind races for a backup plan before the cold kills him. Sujuin grabs a sack of sugar and dusts the corn, watching it caramelize as the fire kisses each kernel. He sprinkles grated Parmesan, the cheese melting into a creamy veil. Finally, he reaches for the mysterious child powder, a secret ingredient whispered about in old farmer tales. The powder fizzles, coating the corn with a faint glow, promising a boost to the team's strength. Each step costs a handful of precious supplies, but the payoff feels worth the sacrifice. The corn now glows, a beacon of hope in the dim dungeon. While rummaging through an old OS bag left by the Straw Hat Wanderer, Sujuin uncovers a hidden vial of the prized powder. The team gathers around a cracked table, each member aware that rich buyers outside the tower are paying a fortune for the enchanted cherry tomatoes. A single fruit now fetches more than 500 won, a price that could fund their next expansion. Sujuin argues they must intercept the rumor before it spreads and draws a larger crowd to their auction. The scheduled tower raid looms, forcing a split. A minimal crew stays for the auction while the rest prepares for the assault. He volunteers to stay, trusting his old contact with the wandering merchant, even as the clock ticks louder.
Sujuin forces open the wandering merchant's hidden 60th floor tunnel, racing toward the 38th floor auction with the coveted enchanted cherry tomatoes. Sujuin risks losing his crew's share and his own reputation as Jessica Deserts, handing her profit to an unknown rival, while the Silver Wolf tribe demands the mystic Straw Hat. As the tunnel narrows and the tribe's war drums echo, a shadowy figure blocks the passage, clutching the stolen straw hat, leaving Sujuin's fate and the tomato haul hanging on a razor edge.
Every detail matters. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari, and we'll catch them all.
The Blue Moon's poison spreads through the fields, and only peanuts stand between ruin and salvation. Sujuin grips his shovel, eyes flicking to the ruined earth. He knows the soil will die unless he plants fast. The cursed moonlight makes the ground hard, each step a struggle. Sujuin forces his muscles, slamming the tool into the dirt, breaking the crust. The first furrows appear, dark and fresh, promising a chance to grow. He feels the weight of the kingdom on his shoulders as the first seed drops. Kong, Quang. Echoes of his companions ring out as they rush the field together.
Sujuin slams his shovel into the loamy floor, coaxing ruby-red tomatoes to sprout amid snarling goblins, while Junwoo calibrates crystal fertilizers that pulse with pure mana. Mira darts in, stitching wounded wolves, and Rex hammers a barricade of thorned vines. The bounty chest rattles, gold, rare herbs, and a promise of escape. Join the Hari squad with a sub before the system crashes.
Sujuin spots a cluster of newborn rabbits huddled near the crystal-lit wall. He wants to dress them in tiny outfits to boost morale and attract shoppers. The problem? His coin pouch is nearly empty after the last goblin raid, and the merchant stalls are closed for the Blue Moon night. The scent of fresh grass hits Sujuin's nose, sharp and wild. He freezes, eyes darting to the emerald blades swaying like a living carpet. The grass looks too perfect, almost inviting. Hunger gnaws at him, but curiosity wins. He crouches, sniffs, then bites a stalk, the juice flooding his mouth with sweet earth. A low moo echoes, and a small creature steps forward, bowing its head in thanks. The creature's gratitude feels like a promise of nourishment, yet the grass's allure hides a deeper trap.
Thank you for the food.
The grass's sweetness fuels him, but a shadow watches from the trees. The taste of the grass explodes on Sujuin's tongue, rich and addictive. Sujuin devours the mysterious emerald grass, its intoxicating power surging through his veins, and with a thunderous roar he shatters the Minotaur herd's formation, forcing the commander's desperate plea into silence. The flood of newfound strength fuels his ambition, granting him a bounty of, and swelling his confidence. Yet the black dragon Aileen Furtani looms, ready to crush his quest for the promised reward. Kong's guttural scream ripples across the battlefield, rallying allies as the tower manager's warning about the collapsing cave echoes, leaving Sejuan teetering between a victorious charge and a deadly, unseen collapse. The lore runs deeper than you think. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari to uncover all of it.
Sejuan slashes a goblin with a hoe, then plants a glittering seed that bursts into a gold-glinting tomato vine, its fruit pulsing with monster essence. Mira swoops down, her arrows scattering the remaining foes while the half-dragon blacksmith Silas hammers a gleaming blade beside the sprouting stalk. With every harvest, the dungeon's walls tremble. Lord Carcass scouts watch, Emperor Zoltar's banners flutter, and the Abyssal Queen's whisper grows louder. Sejuan's tomato rose wilted under a midnight raid, the horned wretch tearing through his prized vines as if hunting treasure. Mira swooped in, her elven blade flashing, while Silas hammered a barricade of dragon iron around the farm.
The second-generation poison bee queen cracks her shell, spilling a glimmering amber from her veins. The newborn swarm erupts, spilling into the tunnel like a flood of living steel. Sejuan darts forward, slashing with his drake plow, trying to carve a path through the buzzing mass. Each swipe sends shards of crystal-spored vines scattering, but the bees multiply faster than his blades can cut. The cavern's ceiling drips with a strange, luminous slime, sealing exits and trapping him with the growing menace. He has no idea what's waiting. The swarm surges, a living wall of stingers flashing in the dim light. Sejuan backs toward the far wall, his boots slipping on the slick slime as the hive presses closer. The minotaurs roar with approval as the stew hits their tongues. Their energy spikes visibly. They crave more of the strange grass, believing it could turn their barren lands fertile. Their appetite fuels a sudden burst of vigor, and they chant a wild chant about Ox 3. Sungjin watches, realizing the grass could be a game-changer if harvested in quantity. He orders the crew to gather every tuft, hoping to stockpile the miracle crop. Their enthusiasm lifts morale, yet the rush risks overexerting their limited supplies.
Humans.
Sejuan slams the crate of glowing cherry tomatoes onto the stone table, the grade label shimmering like a promise. The market's emptiness hints at a deeper betrayal waiting to surface. Sejuan darts through the crystal corridor, clutching a steaming bundle of moonlit carrots. The wandering cat merchant materializes from a shimmer of amber mist, whiskers twitching, eyes glittering with commerce. Fresh produce for rare seeds? The feline purrs, extending a clawed paw. Sejuan flashes a grin, slaps a sack of harvested kelp onto the merchant's scale, and watches as the cat's tail flicks, revealing a hidden map to the Ember Grove. Sejuan's mind races as the cat's scent of money fills the air, a promise that could flood his vault. Sungjin shatters the basalt golem, planting a glowing seed that erupts into emerald vines siphoning the monster's life while Sejuan hammers his hoe into the cursed soil, coaxing ruby-red tomatoes as goblin blades flash. Sungjin feels triumph surge as the golem's power fuels his farm, but Sejuan trembles, fearing the sudden bounty draws Lord Carcass's raid and threatens the fragile market's survival. A mysterious cat merchant materializes, eyes glittering with a hidden price, and the looming raid squad bursts through the fissure, leaving the farmer's fate hanging on an unspoken bargain. They thought they could use him. They were wrong. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. The Phoenix Guild flames flicker, followers vanish, and a cursed cat snarls for its final portrait. A frantic uploader scrolls through a flood of posts. Uploads, followers, a wandering cat merchant, a Phoenix Guild hunter, all tangled in a chaotic feed. He can't find the perfect shot, but the cat's eyes burn with demand. The uploader fears the cat's wrath for posting without permission, yet the deadline looms. He scrambles to capture a cute frame before the cat's temper erupts, hoping the image will appease the beast and keep his followers alive. The cat's patience thins faster than a dying ember. The uploader whispers an apology, admitting he posted the pictures without warning.
Smoke curls from a hidden vent, thick and acrid, choking the air. The merchant coughs, his nose burning, as the cat whines. What is Essel? The strange word slips from its mouth, a warning of a trap set by the dungeon's ancient defenses. The smoke thickens, turning the floor into a slick, slipping surface. The cat darts forward, its paws leaving faint scorch marks, while the merchant stumbles, eyes watering, trying to locate the source. He spots a faint glow near a cracked wall and scrambles toward it, hoping to find a vent to clear the fumes.
A sudden shout pierces the market, claiming the honor of the Inspection Bureau. The voice belongs to a stern official, stepping forward with a badge glinting in the dim light. He wants to confiscate the illegal merchandise and expose the uploader's network. The merchant's fear sharpens, his hands gripping his wares tighter, while the official blocks any escape route. The official orders the crowd to disperse, his authority silencing murmurs. The uploader glances at the merchant, calculating a quick retreat before the Bureau's grip tightens.
Thanks to magic cherry tomatoes.
The cat merchant slams a sealed vial of the new grade magic cherry tomato onto the table, demanding tower coin payment while the Inspection Bureau official claws at his badge, ready to confiscate everything. Sujuin's desperate hope of funding his next Monster Quest harvest hinges on the tomato's double-speed fat-burning power, while Jenny's council approval teeters on the noble suspicion, threatening the farm's survival. The guild inspectors converge on the delivery carts, eyes fixed on the glowing crates, leaving the fate of the tower farm's dominance hanging on a single, untested batch of magical fruit. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. That's it. Just do it.
Mid-level merchant promotion sealed. The market's blood price rose to a soul per sale. The congratulatory shouts echo as the parchment drops into his palm. He grips it, feeling the weight of new expectations settle on his shoulders. A sudden ring pierces the clamor, a metallic clang that snaps his focus. The room, spotting a familiar emblem flashing beside the notice board. The symbol promises richer contracts but also sharper competition. He clenches his fist, determined to claim the advantage before rivals snatch it away. The crowd parts, eyes fixed on his next move, as the floor trembles with unseen pressure. And that's not even the worst part.
You watch the old merchant grin, his eyes flickering with a practice sales trick. Inflate the price, then drop it just enough to feel like a deal. He explains the technique. Make customers think they're saving by lowering the cost, even though the base price stays high. The realization hits you hard. You've been played by a seasoned haggler. You tighten your grip on the purchased items, aware that every future purchase will carry this hidden markup. The farm's budget now hides a silent leak, draining resources you can't replace.
It's an old trick, high price first.
The store owner stands firm, refusing to budge on the tower coin quote, insisting no other shop offers such a wholesale rate. A courier bursts through the market gate, breathless, clutching a sealed parchment. The note reads, "Report on wandering merchant under surveillance. Forward to passageway manager and lift his watch." Sujuin's eyes sharpen. The name Wandering Cat Merchant sparks a memory of a sly trader who vanished after a huge tomato deal. He flashes the document to his lieutenant, who nods and sends a swift hollow message. The manager lifts the surveillance, and the merchant's reputation spreads like wildfire. His bargaining genius now officially recorded. The farm gains a new ally, yet the council's eyes flicker toward the sudden rise.
It's the wandering cat merchant from back then.
The council's interest could soon become a trap. Sujuin slams a glowing tomato sack, triggers a surge of monster essence, causing goblins to erupt in envy and the ground to crack open, releasing a vortex of raw mana. Sujuin feels his lifetime harvest hanging on this volatile power, risking everything he built for a chance to double the farm's value while his crew watches fearfully. A massive iron gate shudders as Lee Junho approaches. The abyssal rift spews crimson spores, and an unseen shadow looms behind the newly tamed beast, promising imminent disaster. Only the top 1% of readers make it this far. Prove you're one of them. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari. Hojin slams the ancient seed into the glowing soil, and vines burst forth, wrapping the Black Iron Guild's siege towers in thorny prison. Mira darts forward, her silver aura healing the wounded, while Luna commands a swarm of feral cats to shred the invaders. Seirin's blade sings, cleaving through Lord Aster's elite guards, and the farm dungeon erupts in a riot of blossoms and blood, sealing Ho-Jin's claim to the realm.
Sejuan slams the cracked shell of the crayfish, sparks of emerald energy flaring as the monster collapses. He pockets the XP, then rushes to the newly sprouted tomato vines, coaxing them to bloom with a flick of his farm-type skill.
Li Ho-Jin slams a freshly grown golden tomato into the monster-infested courtyard, its juice sizzling against the slime-caked stones. Mira chants a healing hymn while Luna unleashes a horde of purring cat beasts to guard the rows. As the Black Iron Guild's war drums echo, Ho-Jin's automated water cannons burst, drenching the oncoming soldiers and turning the dungeon into a thriving, blood-soaked farm. Quang pauses, realizing he needs a special tool to finish the job. He rushes to fetch a hidden blade, the one that can cut through the toughest shell without breaking. Returning, he hands it to Sejuan, who grips the handle tightly. Sejuan twists the crayfish's head and body in unison, feeling the joints give way. Ho-Jin slams the soil-seeded slab, summons a horde of fire-spitting rabbits, and watches them sprint into the crystal-veined cavern. Mira chants, sealing the burst of mana while Seirin brandishes a steel gauntlet, fending off Duke Velder's assault. Jinwoo hammers a glow iron plow. Luna herds a swarm of luminous beetles, and the ancient dragon Erebos roars, its shadow trembling over the thriving farm dungeon.
Sejuan slams the soil tiller into a snarling goblin, the blades sprouting vines that snare the beast as ripe tomatoes burst from the floor. Ho-Jin watches, his automaton drones whirring, then flicks a switch, water streams into a crystal-capped trough, flooding the arena and coaxing the monsters into obedient labor.
Ho-Jin slams the irrigation lever, flooding the cavern with crimson tomato vines that erupt like fire-spitting rabbits, while Mira seals a mana burst and Seirin brandishes a steel gauntlet to guard the harvest. Sejuan feels his farm's future teeter on a razor's edge, gaining a crucial 30-point XP boost that could unlock the legendary blueprint. Yet the vice-chairman's ultimatum threatens to strip half the land away. The guild's mercenaries approach the unfinished acres, their shadows looming over the glowing tomatoes, leaving Ho-Jin's team scrambling to secure the terrain before the next wave shatters their fragile victory. End of the chapter. Time to subscribe to Manhwa with Hari.
Li Ho-Jin slams the soil of the mushroom cave, coaxing crimson tomatoes to sprout beside snarling slime spores as the distant clang of ravenous hunters echoes. Mira darts in with a crate of enchanted fertilizer. Terra hammers a crystal-tipped plow and Sejuan, still chewing on a carrot, grins, his furry companions forming a protective ring. The bounty bursts, daring Lord Karsus's agents to claim what the farmer's optimism has cultivated.
Sejuan slashes a hulking slime, harvests its gelatin, and plants the pulsing seeds in a cavernous greenhouse. Within minutes, crimson tomatoes sprout, their vines snaking around glittering or veins. Mira hurries in with a caravan, loading crates while Terra sharpens a silver hoe enchanted for monster roots.
The scholars gather, eyes bloodshot, flipping through charts. Their findings spill out. Awakened beings lose reproductive ability the moment they cross the tower's threshold. A side effect of their bodies sinking to raw mana, the reports explain, with fertility returning only after surpassing level 10. Ho-Jin reads the numbers, his mind racing. If the awakened cannot bear, neither can the plants they nurture. He scrambles for a loophole, recalling an old legend about a mana reset deep in the abyssal WRM's lair. The cost of a failed experiment looms like a dark cloud over his budding empire. He must decide whether to chase a myth or abandon his dream. A sprig of spring onion peeks from the soil beside Sejuan's stash. He aims to add it to his market variety, hoping the rare herb will fetch a higher price. The onion's roots are tangled with poisonous moss, and a low growl hints at a lurking beast ready to defend its turf. Sejuan slices through the moss with his blade, pulls the green stalk free, and tucks it beside the tomatoes, ignoring the uneasy feeling creeping up his spine. What comes next changes everything.
Naya?
A curious minotaur warrior approaches, sniffing the air for the source of the strange scent. A hulking black minotaur lumbers into view, its horns glinting in the dim light as it sniffs the lingering scent of fresh grass. It bellows, "Look at this, Naya! This black minotaur stole your grass." Naya, the farmer, Sijuan, stares at the beast, clutching the remaining stalks, his mind racing for a solution. He argues, "I just picked up what fell onto the ground, Moo. If you weren't going to throw it away, there's no way the grass would be left just like that." The minotaur pauses, its eyes narrowing, as doubts flicker in the farmer's heart. A hulking black minotaur storms into the dungeon, sniffs the fresh grass, and declares it stole Sijuan's prized stalks, forcing the farmer to confront a thief he never imagined. Sijuan's honor trembles as his reputation and hard-won crops hang on a desperate bargain for 100 tower coins, risking his pride for a chance to salvage dignity. The commander glares, demanding proof while the minotaur hesitates, its massive head cocked, leaving the fate of the stolen grass and Sijuan's future hanging in the echoing stone corridors. Turn on notifications and make Manhwa with Hari your go-to spot for the latest updates. One stolen blade costs 100 tower coins, and his soul hangs in the balance. Mu drops to his knees, eyes wide, pleading that he never meant to take anything. He stammers apologies, hoping words can erase the theft. Naya watches, arms crossed, silent judgment tightening around him. The weight of his mistake presses down like a stone, and the only way out looks like a debt he can't pay. Mu's desperate confession only fuels Naya's fury, and the tower's cold stone seems to echo his failure.
"I'm sorry, I didn't know, Mu."
The price tag already feels like a trap.
Sijuan crouches beside the glowing hydroponic trays, his fingertips brushing the emerald leaves that pulse with faint mana. He whispers instructions to the tiny drakelings perched on the racks, their scales shimmering as they distribute fresh water. Suddenly, a rumble echoes from the deepest chamber, a wave of darkness rolls toward the farm. Sijuan snaps his wrist, unleashing a burst of cultivated fire that sears the encroaching shadows, buying his furry allies precious seconds to retreat.
The black rabbit darts back, its fur shimmering with a strange glow. The lead farmer watches, jaw set, realizing the creature's presence is sharpening his own technique. He wants to master the rabbit's speed, but his clumsy limbs lag behind. Queng's mother bursts onto the scene, shouting that the fight must end, while the chairman watches from a balcony, his fingers steepled. Queng wants the minotaur to leave the fields, but the creature's roar drowns his pleas. Queng raises his hammer, slams it into the ground, sending a shockwave that rattles the stone pillars. The shockwave knocks the minotaur's head back, buying a moment of silence. The chairman's eyes narrow, calculating the cost of this interruption.
"Hurry, we need food."
The massive red bear barrels into the cramped tunnel, scattering workers and crushing the harvest deadline as Mu's desperate commands clash with the beast's thunderous roar. Queng feels his resolve shatter, watching his mother's pleas and Naya's terror, while the tower manager's starving howl threatens to consume the fields, leaving their livelihood hanging by a thread. The bear snarls, the manager lunges for food, and the chairman watches impassively, leaving the minotaur's fate, the harvest, and the crew's survival teetering on a razor-thin edge. We don't just read the action, we read the lore. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari and dive deep. Lee Ho-jin slams his boot into the iron-studded floor, summons a burst of emerald vines, and watches them coil around the abyss's cursed crystals. Myra's healing aura flares as Garen lunges, cleaving a wave of stone golems, while Luna darts overhead, delivering intel on Lord Kaldor's ambush. Terra hammers a gleaming scythe, and the farm-type skill erupts, turning monster loot into thriving cash crops. Lee Ho-jin slams his hoe into the ironstone floor, coaxing luminous roots to sprout as Mira chants a healing hymn and Garen fends off a horde of iron-scaled drakes. The Black Lotus Guild's saboteurs explode a cursed seed, but Luna's sleek claws snatch the detonator mid-air. Ho-jin slams his spade into the iron abyss floor, roots snapping as a torrent of glowing crystal sprouts in seconds. Mira chants, sealing the surge while Garen fends off Kaldor's elite guards, their blades clashing like thunder. Luna darts between shadows, relaying the Black Lotus Guild's ambush plan. With Terra's reforged hammer in hand, Hojin plants the final seed, an explosive harvest that could topple an empire.
Quang. Quang.
The caretaker watches the newborns settle, convinced his friend Quang can handle them. He hopes Quang's calm will keep the little ones from panicking while he gathers supplies. Quang, however, seems distracted, ears twitching at an unseen sound. The caretaker nudges him, but Quang merely chuckles, his tail flicking. The baby rabbits stare at the older rabbit, waiting for guidance that never comes. Frustration builds as the caretaker realizes he must step in himself, lest the hatchlings wander into danger.
A bunch of wolves were looking for this straw hat?
Sejuan hoists a basket of glowing night tomatoes, slams the lid, and sprints toward the crystal-lit alcove where Mira patches a wounded Garen.
A surge of magical water bursts from the can, doubling its capacity and triggering a second awakening just as the black rabbit transforms, while an enormous ox-shaped patrol unit thunders toward the cave entrance. The caretaker's chest crushes under the weight of fledgling rabbits clinging to his coat, their terrified eyes demanding rescue, while fear of prowling wolves and the fragile hope in Quang's calm grip tighten the stakes. The ox patrol looms, hooves clanking, as wolves howl from the shadows, leaving the newborn's fate, the harvest barter, and Quang's resolve hanging on the edge of an imminent, unseen clash. Understanding the world makes the fights hit harder. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.
Sejuan slams the iron gate shut, his loyal owl claws flaring as a horde of slime drakes erupts from the cavern. Mira fires a spear that shatters a crystal, releasing a burst of glowing spores that instantly sprout into steaming tomato vines. Cain darts forward, hauling the first crate of golden fruit, while Evelyn's syndicate saboteurs retreat in a cloud of cursed dust. The dungeon hums with harvest, and Sejuan grins. This bounty will finally pay his way out. Sejuan slams the soil with a grin, his loyal rabbit-clad squad scattering spores as the dungeon's ironclad walls pulse with new life.
The manager sighs, claiming the field is already overrun with urgent battles, refusing extra hands. The farmer, quick-thinking, offers a deal. Protect a wandering merchant from a wolf pack in exchange for a job. The manager's eyes flicker. 3 tower coins equal 3 times Ox 3's wage. A tempting bounty. The farmer, eyes alight, hesitates, then accepts, hoping the reward will feed his crew. The manager seals the pact, unaware the wolves are a trap set by the Blackthorn Syndicate.
Protect the merchant, earn 3 tower coins, moo.
The wolves' ambush could ruin the farmer's chance. The farmer balks at the coin offer, admitting he can't swallow metal. Sejuan slams the rusted gate, his grin widening as the dank air swirls around the towering tomato vines. Enough chatter. Let's drop these monster crumbs and harvest the gold, he shouts, while Mira darts forward, her bow snapping the lurking slime. Cain unloads crates of glittering herbs, and the starving elk tribe on the 85th floor watches, hope sprouting alongside the crimson crops. Sejuan slams the soil, coaxing golden tomatoes from a cavernous plot, while a pack of loyal wolves snaps at incoming slime beetles. Mira darts through the mist, cleaving a hulking golem that threatens the harvest, and Cain hoists crates of glowing herb seeds onto a makeshift cart. Above them, the Overseer's crimson sigil flickers, warning that Lord Arcturus's elite squad will soon storm the farm. The cat-wandering merchant. Sejuan slams the rusted gate, hurling a flood of golden tomatoes onto the battlefield as wolves snap at slime beetles and Mira cleaves a hulking golem threatening the harvest. He stakes his family's winter survival on the bounty, feeling his crew's hope surge while the mercenary guild's greedy claim looms, ready to strip away his hard-won crops. The cat-wandering merchant appears at the edge of the well, eyes glinting, leaving Sejuan unsure whether the mysterious trader brings salvation or a trap that could drown his farm.
If you actually care about the world building, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Manwa with Hari.